Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, the new passenger scare. Authorities say a passenger jet in Florida, engines roaring, taking off, but they were not on the actual runway. Air traffic controllers calling it off. How did this happen? Also breaking tonight, President Trump signing a new executive order aimed at shutting down the Department of Education. The president saying today it is, quote, doing us no good. What this now means for millions of children and their families who count on financial aid and other programs from the department. Tonight, across the U.S., the growing number of attacks on Teslas, arson and vandalism, what Elon Musk is saying the company is now doing tonight. There have been multiple arrests. Attorney General Pam Bondi now calling the attacks, quote, domestic terrorism. Tonight, the intimate photos hacked. The former NFL and college football coach accused of getting into computers to gain access to the photos of thousands of students, allegedly targeting female athletes. Just in tonight, authorities say this is the selfie the suspect in the Idaho college murders case took just hours after the deadly attack, and what they now say he bought on Amazon months before the murders. Tonight, an American man released by the Taliban held for more than 2 years. News on his condition. Tonight, a federal judge lashing out at the Justice Department, accusing them of evading his order to provide answers on those deportation flights, sending hundreds to an El Salvador prison. And tonight, the family of one of those prisoners saying he's no criminal. He's a professional soccer player. The major storm moving into the Northeast tonight from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, New York City to Boston. Lee Goldberg standing by to time this out. The alarming close call for children getting onto a school bus. A driver just inches away from hitting the children. And tonight here, Ringo Starr performing at the Grand Ole Opry for the first time. And we're there. The Beatles star goes country.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Thursday night. And we begin tonight with the breaking news. The new passenger jet scare. Authorities say a Southwest jet at the Orlando airport, engines roaring, beginning to take off, but they were not on the actual runway. Air traffic controllers alerting the pilots, calling it off. Authorities tonight asking, how could this happen? And it all comes amid a new report tonight on that alarming crash landing in Toronto. Investigators now revealing tonight the passenger jet was coming in too fast. They say the pilots were warned just beforehand, an alarm signaling a dangerous descent. The right main landing gear fracturing, the plane flipping upside down, passengers strapped in seatbelts dangling upside down, and then you'll remember escaping out an emergency exit. Tonight, what that new report reveals, but we begin here with this new and alarming incident, a jet beginning to take off in Orlando, the pilots not realizing they were not on the runway. ABC's Gio Benitez covers aviation, and he leads us off.
Tonight, the FAA investigating after a Southwest flight aborted takeoff, the crew mistaking a taxiway for a runway at Orlando International Airport.
3278 stop. Stop was 3278 stop. Cancel takeoff clearance. You're on hotel taxiway. Stop was 3278.
Stop was 3278. Yes, sir. We stop.
Officials saying an air traffic controller canceled the takeoff clearance after the aircraft began its takeoff roll on a taxiway, which runs parallel to the runway. There were no other planes involved, Southwest saying it accommodated customers on another aircraft to Albany. And it comes as investigators are giving a first look at what they say happened during that dramatic crash landing in Toronto. The Delta plane seen flipping upside down, smoke billowing from the fuselage. Examiners poring over the images. Now, just a month later, the Transportation Safety Board of Canada saying the plane was going very fast, triggering a so-called sink rate alert, warning the pilots of a dangerous descent. The preliminary report saying part of the right main landing gear fractured and the landing gear folded into the retracted position. The right wing struck the ground and broke off. Fuel spilled out of the wing and ignited. Passengers inside suspended upside down, hanging by their seat belts.
Everything, drop it! Come on!
All 80 people on board evacuating. Everyone survived, but 21 injured. New images showing that right wing blackened on the ground, 215 feet away from the fuselage, and inside, the overhead bins popped open, luggage thrown about the upside-down cabin. And we're learning the first officer who was flying at the time of the crash had been with Endeavour Air, a subsidiary of Delta, for just over a year and had just over 1,400 total flight hours. The FAA requires 1,500 hours for commercial pilots, but because she had a special aviation degree, she was eligible for a certificate allowing her to serve as co-pilot, which is standard practice under FAA guidelines.
The pilot flying was fully qualified but very inexperienced. So the weather was challenging. We knew that there were wind gusts of up to 40 miles an hour, but this frankly should have been handled. There were plenty of other aircraft that were landing just fine that day.
And David, Delta has said that both crew members are qualified and FAA certified. Meanwhile, tonight back in Orlando, the FAA and NTSB are now investigating, David.
Yeah, serious questions there as well, Gio. Thank you. We turn now to the other major news this Thursday night. Late today, President Trump taking action to essentially shut down the Department of Education, signing an executive order with young students at his side and his new education secretary, Linda McMahon, right there in the room. The president saying the department is, quote, doing us no good. So what does this mean for millions of public school children, for financial aid and the programs helping low-income families? Here's our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, tonight.
Tonight, with a stroke of his pen, President Trump taking a huge step towards dismantling the Department of Education. He's not able to fully eliminate the department without congressional approval, but his executive order will dramatically scale down its function. Nearly half of its staff has already been laid off.
It's doing us no good. We want to return our students to the states.
Most funding for public schools is already provided by state and local governments. The Department of Education has been chiefly responsible for enforcing civil rights laws to prevent discrimination in schools, overseeing the process for students applying for college financial aid, and overseeing funding to help low-income students and students with disabilities. The president today saying those students will be taken care of by other federal agencies, but he didn't say which ones.
Resources for children with special disabilities and special needs, they're going to be preserved in full and redistributed to various other agencies and departments that will take very good care of them.
But that's no comfort to Katie Rivera of Eagle, Colorado, whose 7-year-old son Martine is hearing impaired and autistic.
I've always been really proud to be an American because of how much we fight for those who can't fight their own battles or need help. And I just feel like we're doing the opposite of that now.
I asked Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, who was there with Trump today, about her concerns. Can you personally assure the parents in your state that none of those programs will be cut?
You know, we absolutely are fundamentally committed to every single child in our state and how it is that we can give them the things they need.
But David, no word tonight on when or how those programs will be moved to different agencies. And there is breaking news here from Washington tonight on a different headline. A federal judge temporarily blocking Elon Musk and his team at the Department of Government Efficiency from accessing Social Security records, which contain the personal and sensitive information of millions of Americans. That federal judge calling their work, quote, a fishing expedition. David.
Rachel Scott live at the White House for us again tonight. Rachel, thank you. And this evening there is news amid the growing number of attacks on Tesla vehicles and dealerships, arson and vandalism across the U.S. There are multiple people under arrest tonight, and Attorney General Pam Bondi now calling the attacks domestic terrorism and what Elon Musk says the company is now doing. Here's our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky, tonight.
Tonight, Elon Musk says his company is stepping up security after a wave of firebombings, shootings, and vandalism targeting Tesla.
As part of the enhanced security, Tesla is activating Sentry mode on every car in the dealership. That means security sensors and cameras are on and recording.
Watch as Sentry mode is activated on this Tesla this week. A man seen allegedly keying the car at a parking lot in San Jose was arrested and charged with felony vandalism. Today, Attorney General Pam Bondi said those charged with destroying Tesla property are part of a wave of domestic terrorism. Prosecutors said a suspect arrested for throwing Molotov cocktails at a dealership in Salem, Oregon, was also armed with a high-powered rifle. Prosecutors said another suspect who allegedly tried to set fire to Teslas in Loveland, Colorado, was found with materials to produce firebombs. And Daniel Clark Pounder, accused of torching a Tesla charging station in South Carolina and spray painting profane messages, allegedly found with a 3-page letter voicing objections to President Trump and Elon Musk's federal layoffs, writing, "We will not stand idly by."
The Attorney General insisted today, David, these cases are going to be treated like terrorism. So far, the most serious charge is arson. David?
Aaron Katursky on this again tonight. Aaron, thank you. We turn now to the intimate photos that authorities say were hacked. The former NFL and college football coach accused of getting into computers at more than 100 colleges and universities to gain access to the intimate photos of thousands of students, allegedly targeting female athletes. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, a former University of Michigan assistant football coach facing federal charges after allegedly targeting female student athletes' computer accounts to obtain their intimate photos without their consent that investigators say he downloaded and took notes commenting on their bodies and sexual preferences. According to the 24-count indictment, Matt Weiss was able to hack into the databases of more than 100 colleges and universities and crack the encryption protecting the passwords, assisted by research that he did on the internet. He allegedly gained access to the personal information of more than 150,000 students, and using that, gained access into social media, email, and cloud storage accounts. Weiss primarily targeted female college athletes, prosecutors say. He researched and targeted these women based on their school affiliation, athletic history, and physical characteristics. His goal was to obtain private photographs and videos never intended to be shared beyond intimate partners. Weiss also previously worked for the Baltimore Ravens. He was fired from Michigan in 2023 after failing to cooperate with the school's investigation. His Ann Arbor home was searched by police that year, and at the time, Weiss said he was looking forward to the matter being resolved.
And David, if Weiss is convicted on these charges, he could potentially face decades in prison. We reached out to his attorney for comment. We did not hear back. David?
Trevor Alt reporting on this tonight. Trevor, thank you. We turn now to the chilling new evidence tonight, the selfie that authorities say was taken not long after the murders of 4 Idaho college students. Tonight, prosecutors releasing this new image that they say the suspect took of himself just hours after the deadly attack, and what they say he allegedly bought on Amazon just months before the murders. Here's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, a massive release of court records in the case against Brian Kohberger, including this selfie that prosecutors say was taken just hours after he allegedly stabbed 4 University of Idaho students to death in an off-campus home. Prosecutors say that Amazon records show 8 months before the murders, Kohberger bought a K-bar knife with a sheath similar to this one seen on the website, along with a sharpener. And they say a witness can corroborate his purchase. The murder weapon was never recovered, but police say Kohberger's DNA was found at the crime scene on the button snap of a K-bar knife sheath. According to prosecutors, Kohberger also searched for a replacement knife after the murders.
What does a knife sheath at a scene mean? That's going to be the ultimate question.
And David, Brian Kohberger's lawyers, who also say he is innocent, are now arguing that he has a developmental disorder and lacks the speed and coordination that it would take to commit these murders. David?
Kana Whitworth, who's been following this case. Kana, thank you. Now to President Trump and his deportation efforts. Tonight, a federal judge lashing out at the Justice Department, accusing it of evading his order to provide information on deportation flights sending hundreds of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador. An attorney says among those deported, a professional soccer player. Here's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, a federal judge says the Trump administration has evaded its obligations to prove they did not defy his order by sending 2 planes of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador. Judge James Boasberg had ordered the planes to turn around, saying he needed more information about why the more than 200 men were being deported with little to no due process. But the flights did not stop. Judge Boasberg gave the administration a deadline of noon today to hand over specifics about the flights, but tonight he says what they provided is woefully insufficient. The administration claims the men are all violent gang members, though they acknowledge many of them don't have criminal records. Officials have repeatedly refused to provide any information about their identities.
We are not going to reveal operational details about a counterterrorism operation.
Overnight, Judge Boasberg receiving declarations from lawyers representing at least 5 of the men believed to be in that prison in El Salvador, insisting they are not gang members at all. An attorney claims one of them is Jersey Reyes Barrios, a professional soccer player in Venezuela. She says he was tortured after protesting the Maduro regime and had applied for asylum in the U.S. after entering the country legally. His family believes he was singled out because agents thought his tattoo was a gang tattoo. His lawyer says it's actually a tribute to his favorite soccer team, Real Madrid. And tonight we talked with his aunt. Her message: give these young men who are detained a chance to prove their innocence. David?
Mary Bruce inside the briefing room there tonight. Mary, thank you. Tonight we're tracking these storms moving right into the Northeast. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg from WABC here in New York. Hi, Lee.
Hey, David. Heavy rain closing in on the Northeast as we speak. We've had some thunderstorms near D.C. It's closing in on Philly. It'll be in New York, a soaking from about 9 to midnight, and just in time for the morning commute. In places like Boston, a parting shot of some snow in northern New England before the storm leaves tomorrow. Big winds behind the system. It's gusty in the south and east this evening, but in the Midwest and Northeast tomorrow, gusts to 50 miles an hour. That means fire conditions from the plains to Florida. David?
Lee Goldberg back with us tonight. Lee, thank you. Overseas tonight, an American has been released after more than 2 years in Taliban captivity in Afghanistan. George Glesman, a Delta Airlines mechanic and an avid world explorer, traveled to Afghanistan in December of 2022, despite the State Department warnings at the time. On his first day in Kabul, the Taliban grabbed him off the streets. Glesman coming home along with White House hostage envoy Adam Bowler, the first high-level U.S. group to go to Afghanistan since it fell to the Taliban. When we come back here tonight, the very close call for children getting onto a school bus, what authorities are saying tonight about the startling images here in a moment. Also, for the first time, Beatles star Ringo Starr performing at the Grand Ole Opry. We'll take you there tonight as the Beatles star goes country. And next here, look at this, the massive home explosion. One person in critical condition at this hour. Firefighters racing to stabilize that home to try to save the dogs inside. And what they think caused all of this in a moment here. Tonight, a powerful explosion leveling a home in Los Angeles. One person who was inside now in critical condition. The blast ripping through the house, tearing off most of the roof. Firefighters stabilizing what's left of the house to rescue at least 3 dogs trapped inside. They have saved the dogs tonight. Authorities suspect fireworks as a possibility. Tonight, NTSB investigators studying the collapse of Baltimore's Key Bridge, and they're urging safety reviews at dozens of other American bridges. Among them, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and the Brooklyn Bridge. 6 people died when the Key Bridge collapsed after being struck by a cargo ship. The NTSB says if there had been a vulnerability assessment, operators would have known the risk. When we come back tonight, the scare at the school bus stop, the car passing the bus, missing the children by just inches. You'll see it. And we'll take you to the Grand Ole Opry tonight. Ringo Starr goes country. To the index tonight, the alarming close call for children getting on the bus in St. Joseph County, Indiana. Another driver missing them by just inches. A car passing the stop bus on the right side there on the shoulder, a horn blaring. Home surveillance showing 2 children on the side of the road, the car racing through between the children and the bus. Police tonight looking for that driver. When we come back here for the first time, Ringo Starr at the Grand Ole Opry.
ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, sponsored by Pacific Life, creating financial security for nearly 160 years.
Finally tonight here, the Beatles star Ringo Starr goes country. Nightline's Byron Pitts at the Grand Ole Opry.
I need somebody help, not just anybody.
He held that famous umbrella in Help.
Penny Lane is in my ear.
Rode a horse in those red dress coats in Penny Lane. And got the crowd swaying as he always did in Hey Jude. The boys from Liverpool, you know their names. It's John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
You called them your brothers?
My brothers and my friends, yeah. I'm an only child. I ended up with 3 brothers. I loved it.
Why was it so magical, you think?
It just worked. That band came together, and it really worked, and we worked.
Now 84 years old, a resurgence of sorts with a deeply held passion. American country music.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for the first time to the Grand Ole Opry, Ringo Starr.
Playing a special one-night-only show at the most famous country music venue on the planet, Nashville's beloved Grand Ole Opry.
Let's fix you. I'm gonna be a big star. Keep your eyes.
In collaboration with country music legend T-Bone Burnett, Ringo is back with his 21st studio album, Look Up. A love letter to country music.
Well, I hope you'll come and see me.
Ringo realizing his lifelong dream of playing music his way in front of this crowd.
What was it about country music that spoke to the heart of a kid from Liverpool?
I think the emotions of country music. They're very emotional songs, so many of them.
Was it cool to love American country music in 1950s England?
Oh, yeah. And where I come from, I'm blessed because it's Liverpool is a port. Every 3rd house, one of the sons was in the Merchant Navy. And they were going around the world, and they go into America, they would bring records in.
What will you want people to remember about you?
I think it's all down to the music. Millions of people know about the music and hundreds know about me. I mean, it still surprises me that the beat goes on.
Ringo seemed right at home. Our thanks to Byron, and thank you at home. I'm David Muir. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.